Thought we were in trouble there for a second, but it's fine. We're fine.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic. Before the Dark Times, before the Empire.
If you remain the power of the dark side,
you may fire when ready.
I'll show you the dark side. We would be honored if you would join us.
Don't worry, R2. We're going.
Back it up, Buzzsaw.
But how dare what you have dared.
I am a Jedi, like my father.
Welcome back to Blah Wars.
Hello, how are we, everyone?
We're good. Jude is a bit busy this week, so Raj and I are going to get together and give you the lowdown on the Han Solo trailer, which we'll get to in a moment. But it's been a massive week for Star Wars news, right, man?
It certainly has. Yeah, I was. Obviously the trailer came out at the Super Bowl over the weekend, and
two trailers, right?
Well,
TV
two trailers,
spot?
yes. We had the Super Bowl TV spot, which came out on in the UK it was Sunday night. Sunday. If you're in the US, and then obviously the next day we had the full trailer, which is about a minute and a half or 2 minutes.
Yeah, so you've got a 45-second TV spot and you've got a minute and a half theatrical teaser trailer. So what we're going to do is go through those. I think we'll watch the TV spot first, and then we will have a little chat through it.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So you want to make a difference?
Yeah.
Trust me, you're going to love it. And which branch are you interested in joining?
I'm gonna be a pilot. Best in the galaxy.
Your name?
Right, so that was the TV spot. What were your first reactions to that? Did you see it on the night? Or did you see it the next day?
I saw it on the night.
Okay.
So my first reaction, the feeling I had when I saw it was,
Yeah.
that's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, me too. You know what? Star Wars trailers, even the prequels, they always make me extremely excited.
Yeah.
Even at the time, I mean, when I saw those prequel trailers, I was super excited for the film, even though I had bad experiences with the prequels. This felt like the closest thing. I mean, watching this, I felt no excitement at all. I just felt completely calm. I felt as if I was watching the trailer to like Star Trek Beyond or something like that. Just a film which is part of a series that I like watching, but I would not say I'm not. I mean, I like Star Trek, I like the original films, but I'm not saying I'm a super fan. But when I watched those Star Wars J.J. Abrams trailers, I did not tingle with excitement and wish that it was Memorial Day already. So my first reaction was, hey, it looks fine.
Yeah, and sort of having watched it many times now, I was trying to understand why was I just completely sort of. I wasn't
subdued.
I wasn't disappointed, but I remember, if you go back to recent history, seeing the trailers for Last Jedi and Force Awakens and Rogue One, and just being excited. I think for me, and we'll go into more detail about this when we see the full trailer. I think a big part of it was the use of music.
Yeah,
I think the music just didn't heighten any sense of tension.
No.
And it didn't feel like Star Wars music, but I think we'll cover that more in
trailers.
Yeah,
trailers tend to be very cliche now. Everything goes, you know what I mean? Or have you seen the Black Panther trailer, for example?
Well, yeah,
and it's just all these bass kind of.
I mean, at least with the first Black Panther trailer, they were smart enough to use a Run the Jewels track or something to get your attention. The music for me here, it didn't disappoint me, but it didn't grab me. And I also think the editing of it was just. I just think it was kind of like. I mean, look, I get it was a Super Bowl spot, but it's a Super Bowl spot. So when you see sort of some of the other Super Bowl spots, it really wants to grab you, and.
It's not as impactful as, say, for example, the Spider-Man trailer that was a couple of years ago.
Or even
No, sorry, what was it? It was a Marvel. It was some sort of Marvel film featuring Spider-Man.
Civil War.
Civil War. That might have been it. Yeah, and it was quite like rocked the internet when that came out.
And of course, to make things worse, and we've discussed this. John and I have discussed this sort of in text conversation earlier in the week. That title, that logo. I mean, it just looks like. It just looks cheap, in my opinion.
It does indeed. So, I mean, in the trailer, you see Han flicking through the Falcon controls, okay? So you got that, and you get a little Lucasfilm thing. And then he's at some sort of, like, what looks like an Imperial, like, checkpoint. Charlie. It looks like an immigration control at the airport.
Yeah.
Okay? Very gloomy, very darkly lit. Han's in disguise there. He's wearing a big cloak. He's got, like, a strange headdress on. That looks like a kind of... I don't know, like a medieval kind of monk hat of some sort. He's wearing that, and this guy's asking him if he wants to join the. So you want to join the Empire? So from that, I mean, if that takes place at the beginning of the film, it could do. Because we know for a fact, it says in the later trailer, he mentions how he was in the army, but it sounds like he's being recruited for a place in the Empire, and he wants to be the best pilot ever.
Which is probably the most interesting thing in the trailer. Like, in terms of backstory for Han Solo, but sorry, can go on.
Yeah, sure. And then you've got the scenes of like a street race against him going off against a speeder. You get a glimpse of the interior of the Millennium Falcon, which looks almost Star Trek-like in its cleanliness.
Yeah.
It's a bit too fucking
we're
clean.
We're assuming that it is, but I'm not saying it
sure.
isn't.
Yeah. It may not be.
Many a movie trailer is sort of through clever editing or what have you, sort of led you to believe this is something, and then when you actually see the movie, it's something else. But
and especially with Star Wars, they have a really bad habit of doing that.
But common sense would sort of dictate that that's probably like you say, the very, very clean interior of the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah. I didn't even realise the floor was reflective until I saw that trailer, or that those things on the wall were anything other than white. I mean, they just look like kind of brown kind of cushion things, creamy kind of cushions in the original films. You don't expect them to all be pristine white. It's like Apple made it or something.
I mean, the thing for me is people pay a lot of money to get that 45-second or whatever it is second slot in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and considering the movie's coming out in May, and there's been huge amount of anticipation for the film, and there's obviously been all this sort of drama as far as the original directors and then Ron Howard stepping in.
Well, this is the first glimpse we get of this movie, right? The production of which has been completely troubled. You've had no end of problems there.
Absolutely.
Two directors fired. New director comes in.
Yeah.
Also, rumours that what's his name? The guy playing Han. How do you pronounce this?
Do you know what?
We're going to do it this time. Show me his name.
Okay, we'll get his name up. Do you know what? We'll find his name.
I'm going to pronounce it correctly this time because we always fluff it up.
But whilst we find his name, what's the controversy around him that you were going to go into?
The rumours are that he's had they're not very happy with his acting, and he's had acting coaching on. I mean, acting coaching is not unusual. It happens in movies. The rumours are they're not very happy with him.
Right. I'll get you a beer if you can put Alden
Ehrenreich.
Oh right, okay.
Alden Ehrenreich. That's why I think it's pronounced, but I don't know. We'll go through the cast, shall we?
What should we before
should we watch second?
Should we watch the second one? But I just wanted to sort of finish a point.
Go
about
ahead.
The fact that I've got a lot of respect for Disney and the work they've done with Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm. But when you've got a film that's sitting less than half a year away, and you've got this 40-second spot to advertise a film, the film's called Solo, and Han Solo is front and he's the essential part of this movie, and yet Han Solo is one of not just the kind of iconic characters in the Star Wars universe, but I put him up there with sort of like James Bond and Indiana Jones obviously, and those sort of. Certainly from the last 50 years, is one of the most, or Dirty Harry, one of the most kind of iconic movie characters. And so when
it's almost like an anti-hero.
Well, yeah,
in a way.
and yet, so my overall, from 40 seconds, without, there's only so much you can analyse in that, but my overall feeling is that did not feel like a Han Solo movie. That did not feel like the character at the centre of that 40-second trailer. I didn't see any sort of like, I didn't see enough of that sort. I mean, I'm going to have to compare him to Harrison Ford. Obviously, it's inevitable. But that kind of that smirk, that kind of like look to say, shit's flying around all around you, but you're like, I got this. Don't worry. And I just didn't get any of that feeling.
I would really hope that in the making this movie, they have studied Harrison Ford's portrayal of Han Solo, and they've also studied Harrison Ford's portrayal of Indiana Jones, because the two are very, very similar. Well, Harrison Ford is both.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like they're the same character, but in parallel universes, alternate universes.
Totally. They have so much in common.
Yeah.
As well, the two characters, and perhaps that's why they're both so successful.
Yeah. So apart from a close-up at the end of the trailer, you don't get a sense
of him looking beaten and bruised up.
There's something very unique about Solo's character. Like you say, that kind of beaten and bruised character that's always like winging his way through in and out of trouble. But shall we watch the main one?
Let's go for the main
trailer.
Really
sort of get stuck into this now.
Sure.
I've been running scams on the street since I was 10. I was kicked out of the flight academy for having a mind of my own. I'm gonna be a pilot. Best in the galaxy.
Hey, kid. I'm putting together a crew. You in?
That's yes.
I might be the only person. Who knows what you really are?
What's that?
Get ready.
Thought we were in trouble there for a second, but it's fine. We're fine.
Okay, trailer number 2. What should we say about this?
Right, okay. So I have watched this trailer many times.
Can I start by saying one thing? Did you think what did the voiceover remind you of?
Voiceover?
Yeah, the voiceover on that.
You mean Emilia Clarke's voice?
No. Han Solo talking at the beginning, like. Because it reminded me of.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
It was like Ray Liotta in Goodfellas.
Oh my god!
Man.
I did not get a Ray Liotta vibe, but if it sounded like, Let's play it again quickly. Let's do it again.
I could totally imagine.
I wish it had the Ray Liotta vibe, because that would have been more interesting. Here we go.
I've been running scams on the street since I was 10. I was kicked out of the flight academy for having a mind of my own.
We were wise guys. We were good fellas. Yeah? It's Ray Liotta in Goodfellas, mate.
Can I be honest with you, John?
Yeah.
I know where you're coming from, but I still think you're reaching a little bit. Like, near the end, he sounds a bit too whiny.
You knew what went on at that cab stand, and every once in a while I'd have to take a beating. But by then I didn't care. The way I saw it, everybody takes a beating sometime.
Oh dear.
I can totally imagine with Ron Howard, especially when he just does the freeze frame cuts and then the voiceover. It was at that time that my father reminded me that kind of. It would be like the Wonder Years. All the Wonder Years stuff will be
If you're listening to this, there's still time to re-edit the movie in the style of Ray Liotta's voiceover a la Goodfellas, because I think that would suddenly make...
Get Ray Liotta to do it.
Oh my god, that would be amazing.
That would be fantastic.
That would be amazing.
Fucking hell. What about... the original version of Blade Runner had a voiceover track, didn't it?
Yeah, which I thought was terrible, which is why,
is why no one likes it.
Which is probably why I didn't get Harrison Ford. If they were going to do it, Harrison wouldn't be a great idea.
Yeah.
So look,
So let's go through the trailer.
Yeah.
Then. I mean, like, sorry.
Do you want me to start?
Go
and have
ahead. Start.
Have my, so probably this time yesterday. Had we seen this time yesterday, so 24 hours earlier, I probably would have had a massive rant about how watching that trailer, it still does not feel like I'm watching a Star Wars trailer. In comparison to the recent sequels and of course Rogue One.
Yeah.
And then sort of last night when I was in sort of bed, looking forward to seeing you and doing this podcast. I'm gonna refer to Star Trek a couple of times during this podcast because I think it's sort of, well, for me it's a useful comparison. Those of you might have been watching Star Trek Discovery on Netflix or something else, and it has kind of, from on the internet, it's kind of split people's opinions. Some people really like it. Some people, really think it's terrible. And for me, watching it, one of the reasons it's been so divisive is that it's kind of veered away from the essential spirit of what has made Star Trek. And the reason I say this is I think this is, for me, the first, excluding the Ewok movies, Battle of Endor and Cavern of Courage.
Yeah.
This is the first sort of Star Wars film which isn't got a sort of like a war theme to it. The previous trailers are always set during a time of war.
Yeah.
And from this, there doesn't seem to be any sort of like major war taking place. I'm not saying it's not on horizon, but it doesn't feel like a military film.
I totally understand what you mean.
And I suppose that having sort of, I was ready to completely berate the trailer, and then I sort of realised, well, maybe this is the future of Star Wars. Maybe this is what's going to be like. Maybe you'll have Star Wars films that feel like gangster films, or will feel like comedies, or will feel like romances or westerns. It won't necessarily have the same sort of tension of light and dark the force that we associate with so many Star Wars films. So compared to yesterday, I'm going to cut a little bit of slack about the trailer. But as you think you might be able to tell from my tone, I'm still not impressed by the trailer. I mean, in terms of the look, John, I think production-wise, of course, it looks fantastic. But I think for me, I think the way the trailer's edited, the use of music, I think, forget whether it captures the essence of what we expect from Star Wars. I just don't think it's that great. It's not as slick. It's not it's not that great. And the thing as well is the biggest challenge with this, because when after watching Rogue One, I was super excited about the prospect of a solo movie, and if you look at the cast list, it's fantastic. I mean, you've got, just looking at the people starring in the film, you've got you've got Emilia Clarke. Obviously, if you're Game of Thrones fans, you'll know her, and you've got Donald Glover, who, again, if you've watched Atlanta, you'll know all about him. He's a fantastic actor. Woody Harrelson, he's obviously a legend. And
Hollywood. Royalty.
True Detective season 1 is one of my favourite things ever.
3 Billboards, go and check that out.
Which I saw recently. I concur. Great movie, fantastic
great
film.
Great supporting actor.
And then it's got other really familiar names like Thandie Newton and Paul Bettany as well. So the cast had me super excited, if not the directors, because with all due respect to the original directors, Chris Miller and Phil Lord, they'd done a couple of animated films, 21 Jump Street, which I enjoyed.
Lego movie as well.
Which is fine, but it's not like when Ryan Johnson got cut. He was made director.
Yep.
I was super excited about him because of what he'd done on
Looper and things.
Yeah. And the same with Gareth Edwards and what he'd done on Monsters.
Yeah.
Very distinctive style of directing, and they are very distinctive movies.
Yeah.
And when the guys dropped out and Ron Howard came in, I mean, if you look up Ron Howard's,
you were the one that told me that he'd been hired. Actually,
yeah.
I was at a party. You were there. We were having trouble lighting a barbecue, weren't we?
Oh, we were.
We got it going in the end. We had the most amazing burgers, which we just burnt. But it was you that I said that the other directors had been fired, and you said, "Yeah, have you heard? It's Ron Howard's been given the job." And I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Wow!"
And obviously, when you think of Ron Howard and you think of Lucasfilm, you think of Willow, and if you actually look at Ron Howard's CV. It's pretty prolific in terms of the movies he's made.
He's made some really lovely films.
I've got a few for you. I've got
I
Splash,
love
Cocoon,
I like
Willow,
Apollo
obviously.
13.
Apollo 13, Far and Away, Parenthood, Ransom, A Beautiful Mind, Frost Nixon, Rush, which is a good film. And yet, despite the fact he's made all these great films and he's won many awards for them, he's very Hollywood, and that's the kind of problem I had with him being made as director, in that as a director, he doesn't really have a distinctive style.
No,
he makes films. These films are they're very well made, and there's a certain sort of good quality about them, but they don't jump out. We've all watched kind of cult films, which maybe you
usually don't know you're watching a Ron Howard film.
Yeah.
You're not really aware. This is, you know what I mean. You watch a Spielberg film, you kind of know it.
Or you watch a Wes Anderson film, or a Tarantino
film, or a Paul Thomas Anderson, or whatever. But you watch a Ron Howard film, you're enjoying the film, and then you get to the end, and you're like, oh, it was Ron Howard directing that. Sometimes you just have him on, So. Yeah, he doesn't have a distinctive style.
Yeah, and the point is I very much doubt whether Ron Howard was involved in this trailer, but
I don't think they are at all.
What worries me about the trailer is that this film doesn't seem to have something distinctive about it. I know we kind of joked about Ray Liotta, but does this film feel like a gangster movie? Does it feel like a heist movie? I don't know.
It's supposedly a heist film.
And again, it doesn't have that.
But I've
vibe
heard
of
that
a heist.
through the grapevine. There's no sort of proof to that. What I'd like to do is go through. I mean, my initial reactions to that trailer, the second trailer, were, again, I sat there pretty stony faced through it, just going along with what was there. Didn't invoke any excitement or hairs on the back of my neck or anything like that. However, I did have a massive smile on my face for the final scene, where Han says something like,
"Yeah,
I think we're okay. I think we thought we were in a bit of trouble there, but we seem to be okay." Which is funny because it's a sort of in-joke about the making and the production of this film, as well. But also, it does sound like the sort of thing Han Solo would say.
It sounds like the sort of thing he says.
The dialogue is correct. But the voice is wrong.
What?
In my opinion.
Well, and I see where you're coming from.
He does resemble Harrison Ford. Okay, fair enough, but I don't think he sounds like him.
No.
But people will. This film is going to have to go through the scrutiny of people constantly looking at that, saying, "Is that a young Harrison Ford?"
Yeah.
And I feel very sorry for the guy.
Well, I do as well, and this is my major problem. When the guys decide, the movie people decided, let's do a Han Solo movie, and this is where I kind of use Star Trek as an example. I mean, I don't know how you feel about the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek, but I think that was a very bold move to recast the original series. But if you take Chris Pine as a good example, he had to step into a very iconic character, played by William Shatner, but. Chris Pine,
who himself is an extravagant,
charismatic
man.
guy,
yeah, who acts like no one else because he's just so. Do you know they used to get Kirk to do everything like 10 times? Do you know about this?
No.
Oh, when they were making the Star Trek films with Nicholas Meyer, Wrath of Khan, Voyage Home. I think he made the 6th one as well, Undiscovered Country. He would make Kirk or William Shatner do like 10 takes because by the end. Kirk was so exhausted, not Kirk, but Shatner was so exhausted that he would deliver the lines naturally, not in his, exaggerated
Shatner
way. So,
I think Chris Pine did a good job in the sense that he didn't try and mimic William Shatner. And he obviously doesn't look like William Shatner, but
where he's doing the Kobayashi Maru test in the original Star Trek film, it does feel like you're watching a young William Shatner. That's done well.
Well, I reckon the reason he's good at that is because what he's done is rather than trying to do like an impersonation, almost like a parody, he's taken what's made Kirk so good, like the bravado that Kirk has, and that sort of sense of adventure and being that sort of alpha male and the wit. And so he if you take the essence of a character, I mean, this is why I think I'm sure people may disagree, but when Sean Connery left James Bond, there were so many people like, well, that's it for the franchise. And then, apart from, was it Lazenby sort of doing one film, and Connery came back, Roger Moore came back, he did his own take on the character, but he kind of kept the essence of the character the same. And
Yeah.
so, and I know this is just a minute and a half trailer, and like you're right, the dialogue's great, but even that little bit when Chewie kind of makes a noise and he says, "That's a yes," it's the delivery of it, you know.
Yeah, it's not quite right, is it?
Han Solo has this kind of like aloofness to, you know, that obviously is very distinctive, and it's Harrison Ford. But I think a charismatic actor, a good actor, it's rather than trying to copy Harrison Ford, it's just having that general kind of like, you know, I can give it almost I can give a shit attitude to certain things. And so like to use the last bit in the trailer where he delivers that line, the actual dialogue is spot on. It's the delivery for me that's the problem. So my sort of issue with Alden, and it is a tough task, isn't the hair, isn't the costume, isn't how he looks. He's got to, and I hope this is just in the film we see more of it. He just captures the essence of the Han Solo character and everything he is, and you know, like from when we first meet him in Mos Eisley in the canteen, he's got his leg up, and he's just got this kind of like don't give a shit attitude, you know. Yeah, a kind of sort of like you say, like almost like a gangster type.
He's about to leave, isn't he? And then, like, you know, Guido sort of like brings him over and he puts his foot up on the table and everything like that. He's just completely, his introduction in that film could not be better. And part of the problem with the controversy about this film is that you by showing this movie, you are sort of taking away from that famous introduction of the character in the original Star Wars movie.
Yeah. I mean, this is always going to be an ambitious move, more so than Rogue One. And, you know, I look, it sounds like I'm being very negative. I'm not. I love Star Wars. I want this to be a good film. Yeah. But I think this is a big, big risk. And I always felt that I think the acting, the sort of technical style of acting will be great, like the technical ability of the cast is fun. But, I mean, when you call the movie Solo and you put Han Solo front and centre, and you've got to have a really charismatic actor, and I just don't get the sense it's Han Solo.
I totally understand. The stuff we see in that trailer, can we go through it in a bit of detail?
Yes, yeah.
So, we've sort of talked about the kind of Ray Liotta voiceover stuff, okay? Then you've got the shots of Han Solo standing on a mountaintop, wearing furs, okay?
Yeah.
And that kind of harks back to feelings of, I don't know, it reminded me of Game of Thrones, it reminded me of Hoth, that kind of thing. You've then got a shot of a sandy world overlooking an ocean where you've got Woody Harrelson saying he's putting together a crew.
Yeah.
Okay,
which is probably the most gangster sort of delivery in the entire trailer.
It's doing a GTA heist. GTA Online.
They should have more of that.
Bank. Yeah. But then there's also scenes where he says, "Are you in?" and whatever. But those take place on a snowy environment. So it's as if they've taken the voiceover from one location, they put it onto another. So I'm not entirely sure the trailer's being entirely truthful there.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you use Thor Ragnarok trailer, that's a good example of certain scenes.
They fuck with us, and they will reorder things and whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, they mislead. Trailers do mislead.
Yeah, I think trailers are kind of, especially sort of trailers that Disney seem to make. It's more about capturing the essence of a film rather than the sort of, as opposed to when Warner Brothers do a trailer for, say, a DC movie. It's almost like they give you the entire. They try. Intentionally or unintentionally
sell you the entire
plot.
Film.
Yeah, like this is the big finish. Whereas with this, we obviously don't know what, and it's a good thing that Star Wars do that, where you don't really know what the plot's about, but what they try and sell you is the sense of adventure, or whatever the theme of the movie is. So in that sense, I think, oh right, okay, different worlds. There's some big plan. I do like the little drag racing bits and stuff like that.
Yeah, street racing.
Street racing.
You can see Emilia Clarke's character, who's called Kira, which is interesting because Kira was originally the rumoured name for Rey.
Oh, really?
When the early sort of stuff was being leaked from The Force Awakens, Rey's character was also known as Kira, but so this new character is called Kira, but spelt differently. Which is interesting.
But K?
So originally it was Kira, Kira, and now it's Qira. Okay. So anyway, the trailer shows scenes of... Both trailers show scenes of what looks like a kind of monorail type train.
Yeah.
And And then in the second trailer, in the actual teaser trailer, you see the shot of like a small four-armed monkey kind of creature sitting at the controls of what looks like that train. I only surmise that because of the shape of the room that he's in, it looks like the interior of the train. In the background, you can see a character that looks like Woody Harrelson's character, Beckett. And then later on in the trailer, you also see that same character standing on top of the train, dressed the same, and he's shooting at some attacker coming at him. Right. So the villains you see in this movie, we've got like 11 or 12 weird, like tribesmen almost. They look like pirates or something. They're covered in fur. They've got bone armor on. They've got text inscribed on their helmets, which looks like they're all sort of salvaged and made out of like the remains of creatures. What the hell are these people? They're like a new something we haven't seen before, like Outer Rim kind of sand person.
I mean,
and where do they fit into the story?
I know, and that this is the thing about the trailer that is so sort of frustrating, because a lot of the sort of the elements of the trailer, sort of like the bone structure, if you want, is really intriguing. It's really like this is Lucasfilm expanding the universe once more. Now I don't know exactly how many years before A New Hope do we think this film is set then?
Well, Harrison Ford in A New Hope is supposedly like 28. Okay, so we can assume that the Han Solo character is in his late 20s. In this, we believe he's in his early 20s. So let's just say it's about 8 years before.
So the Empire's in full effect, basically.
Yeah.
It's running things right. Okay.
So it's before Rogue One, and it's before New Hope. But it's a good. I mean, like Jyn Erso is about probably about 15 when this film takes place. If that helps balance out the perspective.
I mean, again, I'm really intrigued by some of the things we see, and as you say, these new characters, and I hope that drag race takes place on Coruscant. Because.
I don't know where it takes place, but it looks like a gloomy, bloody place.
I hope it's
because I mean, generally the whole look of the film is gloomy and lots of grey. There's a bit where they're traveling. Talk about fucking Star Trek here. There's a bit where they're traveling in what looks like the Mataran Nebula from Wrath of Khan. It's all these clouds.
Yeah. I mean,
with thunder and lightning going through.
That's the bit that got me, because obviously that looks like an Imperial destroyer.
I could just totally picture Leonard Nimoy. We are now entering the Mataran Nebula.
That's what definitely got my attention.
So we should all go away and watch Wrath of Khan after this, I think.
Again, go on.
Yeah, but. I watched it the other night. Actually, I fell asleep watching it. But yeah, I did watch it and thought, hey, that's the Mataran Nebula from the Wrath of Khan. So it's a very kind of darkly lit film. There's a lot of greys and sort of nudie shadow usage in this, which we've seen from the footage. Now, bear in mind, of course, a lot of what we see may not even make it into the film, as is the case with all the Star Wars recent trailers. What we see isn't always what we get. Look at Rogue One. Yeah. Totally different. So,
well, I hope we see that some of that dance as a cityscape, because, I'm still want, the guys at Lucasfilm to sort of undo the sins of the prequels, and I always loved the idea of Coruscant, this kind of entire planet that's a city, but it was always, anyone that, we live and work in London, and anyone that lives in the city knows it's dirty, it's smelly, it's grimy, and if you've got an entire fucking planet that's a city, it does not look like the Coruscant you see in the prequels.
No, not
so I know I see what you mean about the darkness, but I suppose it's almost like Blade Runner-esque. If you're on the ground
fucking music in this trailer certainly is. It sounds like
if you're
Tron.
At ground level on true.
The second Tron, what was it called? Legacy. Tron Legacy.
Oh God, yeah. If you're on ground level on Coruscant, which is got these huge, massive, super skyscrapers, it's probably going to be dark just because of the shade alone and all that stuff. So I don't know. I do like this trailer because there's so much going on, and there's like, you're asking a lot of questions and you're trying to break it down, but I'm gonna stop being so cynical about Alden, whatever his name is, because
Alden Ehrenreich,
because again, I just don't know what it is.
They are folding.
The guy is not doing it for me. But anyway, but there's so much to talk about in that respect. And
so the droid you see in the trailer. Hold on. Give me a mo. I've got her name right here. The droid you see in the trailer is a girl. Okay? As far as I'm aware, this is like one of the first female droids we've seen in a Star Wars film.
I can't think of any.
There's a couple. I think the one that delivers the baby in the prequels it might be female.
Right. Okay.
But her name is L337. Okay, voiced by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She is the. I don't know if they did it in motion capture or anything like that. I'm not sure how they filmed it because there's so little information about the making of this movie available that we can only surmise. But that's who she is. That's her character. So Lando Calrissian presumably flying around the universe in the Falcon with a female co-pilot.
What do you think
droid, who reminded me of Lebo from Shadows of the Empire. Do you remember this?
No.
So did you ever play the Shadows of the Empire video game or read the book?
I didn't.
It was a spin-off.
I know of it. Yeah.
Anyway, so Dash Rendar, the main character in that, who is very Han Solo-esque, has a co-pilot who's a robot who looks very similar to her, called Lebo, who's this wise ass, I guess he's a bit like IG-88 with attitude, So it seems as if they've reached into that world and they've got that character and they've redesigned that character and repurposed it for this film, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Just something I observed.
I mean, how do you feel about seeing Donald Glover as Lando? Because that's another iconic character as well, really.
I totally accept it. I mean, I haven't heard him speak yet.
Yeah.
It will all be down to the voice, won't it? And the presentation, the way you script that as well. We see a glimpse of him sitting at... We've got some photos from Entertainment Weekly as well, which we're going to analyse as part of this episode. They've published about 10 photos, some of which you can see in the trailer. We can analyse that in a bit more detail. But from what I've seen, he looks the part. I mean, he looks like Lando Calrissian, so I'm just having to go along with it. I've got no problem with the casting choices in this movie at all.
No, the actors who are being cast.
I feel sorry for them. They have to take on this massive mantle of these characters.
And Donald Glover's so hot right now, either as a musician or as an actor, and I think he's a very charismatic guy. If anyone's seen him in Atlanta,
I'm sure he can do a good job.
Yeah,
I'm sure he can.
And I want Emilia Clarke to do a good job. I know nothing about her character's backstory, but the fact that she's so impressive.
Jude suggested that they might be brother and sister, but I think it might be more. I don't think it's that. I think it could be a romance there.
Well, if it's brother and sister, do you think they'll have a Game of Thrones event? Go down that route.
Well, more on that later. Definitely, because Star Wars is not without its links to.
Well, that's true. God, yeah. Which we'll talk about later. But the guys,
around, mate.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Which kind of will lead. It's interesting considering what we're going to be talking about later on in the podcast. But one other thing I wanted to discuss with you, I didn't see a single stormtrooper in that trailer, did you?
I did in the first one. At the Imperial checkpoint
very,
Charlie...
Very briefly?
Yeah, you can see them walking around and they're basically hustling people and shoving people around.
Which makes sense, yeah.
There's also Han's being pursued by one on some sort of bike. It's like a rectangular bike. Because Han's in like this speeder with Emilia Clarke. It looks like Luke's speeder a little bit, but a lot more... rectangular, and then you've got this bike behind him. So let's look at the Entertainment Weekly photos that have come out. We've got 10 of them to go through. The first one is a shot of Han Solo and Chewie sat in the cockpit of the Falcon. They look like they're jumping to hyperspace. Massive smile on Han's face there. Just the two of them in the cockpit. I reckon this probably comes at the end of the film. What do you think?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Okay.
But what's really intriguing is, and you're much more, you'll probably know, what do you think of is that jacket reminiscent of A New Hope, the one he wears in A New Hope, or is that something
Not at all.
Different? Not at all.
He's wearing like a vest, sleeveless jacket.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
okay.
he's got a black vest and a like a waistcoat almost.
I like this image because it's the first time
this
he
will
looks
be
like...
at least like 8 years before
Yeah.
A New Hope.
I mean, he actually looks like that look on his face and just
joy
and the joy,
yeah.
and obviously the set. I mean, that looks like the Millennium Falcon, doesn't it? You know, it looks
does.
great.
Well,
All the knobbly bits and bright lights, and I'm glad they haven't messed around with the interior too much. But I like that shot, and but God knows where it is in the context of the film.
No.
But
that's always hard to guess. On to the second one. Okay, so Han Solo is standing on a sand planet here. His hands on his hips. He's got the belt with the slung around his hip with his infamous blaster, which is like the iconic Han Solo weapon, at his hip as well. Looking pretty cool. Got to say, it does look a bit Harrison Fordy. I mean, the face isn't exactly right, but.
So again, and
if that guy turned up to a party, you'd know who he's come as.
Well, yeah, I mean, by virtue of the fact he's got that outfit and the blaster. But again, I mentioned him later, but if you look at sort of like the Drew Struzan posters where he has like depictions of Han Solo, it's not about, for me, it's not so much about what he kind of looks like, whether it's the outfit or the face. It's just the pose, like. Would you say that's a typical Han Solo pose? Like with the way of his, that kind of, he looks a bit too serious and not aloof enough for me. I mean, bear in mind, this is entertainment, for me, this is Entertainment Weekly magazine, and they've got certain images to show. And if we look at the previous image, that's very Han Solo, very, very,
Yeah.
But this is kind of...
Might be a bit out on this one, you think?
Yeah, just a little bit, in the sense that you've only got a few images for people to capture. I mean, for people to capture the essence of that character, and
yeah,
I just feel like they've fallen a bit short. I mean, tell me if you disagree, John.
No, I don't know.
I mean, even if you look at his face, it looks a little bit too stern for me to think it's Solo. So.
I think it's about right. But there's like those famous publicity shots from the 70s or whatever of Han Solo, and he's very kind of relaxed, and his whole character portrayal is kind of he's portraying it without speaking there in those pictures.
Very aloof.
Yeah, totally.
I just don't get that sense of aloof in that
Scoundrel.
Image, but you're moving on.
I should call the film Scoundrel. not Solo. The next photo is one of Donald Glover sat at it looks like some sort of den, followed, surrounded by weird aliens playing cards. This is supposedly the game in which he loses the Falcon to Han Solo, which I'm glad we're seeing this.
Yeah.
Jude had a suspicion that he lost him. He lost the Falcon for racing, but I don't. I think it's. I've always believed it was I
always thought it was gambling.
Card game.
Yeah,
some kind of gambling, because he's a gambler, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure Han Solo cheats. Absolutely fucking sure.
Do you know
Han Solo will cheat.
I hope he does.
Because look, when we go back to Empire, when he sees him, he says, "You've got a lot of guts coming here after what you pulled."
Yeah.
So what? And he says, "What you do?" So what did he pull? Is it like the end of Train Spotting where he wakes up and takes the briefcase and runs away?
Yeah.
I want to know what Han Solo pulled. I want to know.
This scene is like pivotal, isn't it, to the Star Wars mythology? Because, I mean, even from like Empire, I always thought, God, like, at that point, I just kind of assumed it was his shit from the start, and the fact he's won it in a card game off this guy, and now he's going all the way.
It's a really interesting thing to throw into Empire, and it sort of makes you question everything.
Sorry, I nicked your pride and joy.
He doesn't mention that to Leia at any point.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's an old friend of mine and whatever. It turns out he fucking used to own the ship.
Yeah.
Which Han Solo is like famous for.
I'm looking at this, I'm super excited about seeing this scene. And like, again,
maybe we're more excited about this film than we thought we were. The photos have actually made me more excited about the movie than the trailers did.
Yeah, I have to say, so far, two out of three have made me super excited. And again, I mean, anyone who's done I've done a little bit of sort of amateur dramatics in my time, and then when you have done, you really look at films differently, and it's all about subtleties. You
played Darth Vader in a pantomime.
I did actually play Darth Vader in a pantomime, which is interesting. But it's the subtleties in how they've captured Donald Glover's face, like that's very Lando, isn't it? That kind of smile on his face, you know. Yeah. That could have been, you know,
smoothie.
Yeah, it could have been taken from Return of the Jedi or something like that.
Yeah, totally.
I'm super excited seeing that.
On the fourth photo, we've got Emilia Clarke looking into the eyes of I was going to say Harrison Ford then. It's not, is it? Of course, it's Han Solo. They're both holding wine glasses, and what they've done here is they've taken a normal wine glass and they've put like a bit of tin around it.
It's like a bean can, an empty,
empty can of beans without a label on as the handle. So that's Star Wars wine glasses for you there, guys. Not much to say about this one, other than it's obviously some sort of glitzy...
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. Like, again, this is a scene that it's great to see Emilia Clarke in something other than Game of Thrones, but
or Terminator.
Or Terminator.
Oh,
and Terminator actually is a good example because when she first... Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because as much as I love her as Daenerys, she has made a few doozy films when she takes her time out from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I really hope this is a good character and a great performance by her. But
I hope so. I hope there's something interesting here. I mean, also you're wondering about the fate of these people because they're not in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Are they dead? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
The fifth photo is of Han and Chewie, and they appear to be clinging on to the back of the monorail train that you see in the trailer. They're both wearing goggles. There's loads of snow. It reminds me a bit of Lord of the Rings here when they get to the kind of dwarf mines.
Oh right, I see what you mean.
It's all icy, and you know, there's all this machinery going along.
Well, I love this picture. Again, it expands on the mythology. Just seeing this, and it's something a little bit different. You know, it does remind me a little bit of the base on Endor.
From Endor, the triangular. Yeah, it's like what do you call it? What is the shape where it's like a triangle but with a? Is it an pentagon? No, not pentagon.
No, trapezium.
Trapezium. With the flat surfaces.
Yeah, this looks cool. This could be a really cool scene. Yeah, I like it.
It looks like they're either breaking in or breaking out of the train. I don't know what they're up to there. Okay, interior of the Falcon. This is the sixth photo.
Yeah, this is the Falcon, isn't it?
Woody Harrelson's Beckett. You can see Han Solo and also obviously Chewbacca. They're sitting at the chess hollow table with drinks. It looks like on the table surface. The Falcon is pristine. I mean, showroom pristine. And there's bits and pieces that are visible here which aren't even visible in the original trilogy. So,
John,
what the fuck happens to this Falcon to make it so filthy?
I wish you guys
with sewerage or something.
I wish you guys were like here to see John's face because he's obviously like he's twitching. Like, are you? Do we obviously come to the conclusion that Han and Chewie would be terrible housemates because Lando's obviously kept the ship in great condition.
They must take off all the panels and stuff because everything has got like a cushioned panel on it here, and that I don't think that's the case in the original films. I think everything's a bit more exposed.
I do wonder if we get some explanations how they managed to fucking trash the interior of the ship.
I don't think we will. I think we're just going to see the film again. We're going to see them like leave the ship in this condition. And
surely they could have afforded
some toilets overflowing. Let's leave it.
Oh God! Surely they could afford some sort of cleaning drawer or something.
Yeah, you think so? Again, more shots of the Falcon flying through the seventh photo here is the Falcon flying through the Matarin Nebula, let's call it, from the Ratchet.
Is that the Defiant over there? Or?
Yeah, the Defiant or a TIE Fighter. The Falcon's actually upside down. It does like a sort of quite a lot of spinning in there. And as you see in the trailer, it encounters a large kind of space octopus, which reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah. Do you think that's just also a tribute to when they're in the asteroid field in Empire?
Yes, definitely.
It's definitely a little bit of a heart slug.
Yeah, 100%. The eighth photo is Lando saluting to L3, the droid we mentioned earlier, who voiced by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. So I'm looking forward to meeting her, getting to know her a little bit. The Lebo resemblance is really close. If you look at her arm, the top of it's R2-D2's leg. It is, isn't it? It's literally the leg of R2-D2.
I see what you mean. Actually,
completely repurposed as an arm. So they've obviously done their research while designing her. She looks like we haven't seen a droid like her before.
Yeah, I think the really
except maybe in Rogue One at the beginning when Krennic arrives on the farm and you see a droid notice.
Oh right, yes,
his ship arriving,
and he's the one that signals.
Yes, he
course.
warns Galen. And then, of course, you got the Entertainment Weekly cover featuring Han and Chewie standing back to back. Chewie looking pretty cool. The actor playing Solo looking, again, what's his name? Alden Ehrenreich.
Ehrenreich, yes.
Looking pretty comfortable in his new role.
What's
here.
interesting
when Han
as well
met Chewie.
If you look at his hairstyle there, and then you look at Harrison Ford's hairstyle in. A New Hope, or I've seen something on the internet where they compared. They've carefully kind of imitated it.
Yeah, I've got a final photo here, and this is a cool one. There is a medical droid here. It's the same FX7, I think his name is.
Oh right, yes.
21B from Empire Strikes Back. The droid who helps look after Luke and also gives him a new hand at the end. One of them standing around with a load of what look like Imperial kind of AT-AT pilots almost.
That goggle,
yeah,
the visor that this dude is wearing. I'm getting a real Kylo Ren sort of vibe. Is that just me? It seems like the design of it is reminiscent of something else I've seen in.
Well, it looks like Stormtrooper eyes. I think it's literally the goggle, the eyepiece of the Stormtrooper helmet, which has been dislocated from there and then repurposed.
That's why it had such a strong sense of deja vu. Right?
Yeah. So they're obviously doing their research here, and they're going back and they're picking things out of the original trilogy and repurposing it, much like they did with Rogue One.
Yeah.
And they do that in the prequel, in the new films, a new series of films, the sequel trilogy, but they do it in a more kind of. They upgrade everything. The way the Stormtroopers look.
Yeah.
It's like an upgraded version of what would happen 30 years ago. Too much, so I'd say. Everything looks like it's...
Too much, right.
Everything looks shining and new, like the Falcon. That's how the Falcon would look in the new movies. But it's strange seeing the Falcon that clean, and I want to know how the fuck does it get so filthy in a time that they own it for. Well, it must be like 6 years.
Yeah, which is very
it's
very interesting because obviously one of the things that appealed universally to Star Wars fans I meet from wherever say is they love the lived in look of the Star Wars universe, and I guess first time, amongst sci-fi science fiction geeks, the Millennium Falcon, if it's not the most cherished, well loved science spaceship. It's in the top 3 on the
second to the Enterprise, maybe equal to.
But part of the appeal of the Falcon is it looks like a mishmash. It looks like it's kind of like this bits and pieces. So I hope there's a really good reason within the story why. It, like you say, it looks like an Apple store. It looks really polished. Like expect some guy with like a name badge.
That's the way it looks like it's straight off the assembly line. It must be stolen. They've got to steal it.
Well, who knows? Maybe Lando nicked it, and Han Solo's nicked it off him, so he's kind of like indifferent about it. Going, what a loser! But
it's just a pile of junk.
Easy come, easy go. Yeah.
Yeah, I just, trailer aside, I am looking forward to the film. I'm just not like rubbing my knees with excitement.
And I do wish to apologise to listeners.
What was it? It's out the 25th of May, 26th of May, Memorial Day, whenever that is. But we're British. We don't have any.
Yeah. So apologies for that sort of crass comment by John there. I'm sure it's very important.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. But I've got no idea when that date is because it's not something we have like various different days to recognise. The losses and war, but we don't have anything called Memorial Day here. So
we know it's in May sometimes, so it's not far off.
Late May.
Yeah, I just wanted to I apologise to the listeners and to John. Look, I'm not one of these people. I one thing I sort of hate about the internet, or dislike rather about the internet, is something is either really really rubbish or something is really really.
It's very black and white.
It's very black and white, and I think it's like a lot of you guys out there, we're very passionate about Star Wars. Very passionate. I would say Han Solo is my favourite character in the entire sort of Star Wars.
I think mine too.
Yeah, so
mine too.
I think it's a bit like when they decide to do an Aliens prequel or what have you. Like when something is really, you really love something, and you know, I remember being heartbroken seeing a Kingdom of, you know, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, because I was just like, what the hell are you guys doing? Just like I felt when I saw the prequel.
I knew it was bad from the moment it started,
Jesus.
because of that fucking. There's you know, every Indiana Jones film starts off with a painting of the Paramount Mountain, you know, and then you know it's the Paramount title card. It's just that mountain.
Yeah, it was like an ant.
And then it was an anthill.
Yeah.
It turned to an anthill, and then all of a sudden this CGI gopher popped his head out and looked around, and you just thought, "Oh, George Lucas is in total command of this movie."
Yeah, great.
Yeah, but fucking hell, what a disappointment that was.
I know.
At least we're never going back there again.
Well, this is true. It can't be any worse than that.
Yeah.
I want this one to be good. I hope
do
it's
too.
good. I think
There's not a lot riding on it. I mean,
well, I think there is.
it
Though.
hasn't got like this kind of middle part in a series of films. It's obviously.
Well, the thing is,
lots of,
I think from a business kind of model point of view, obviously, we'll talk about it shortly, but they're obviously expanding things in Star Wars in terms of the films and other spin-offs. And I think if this film comes out and it doesn't resonate with the audience, if it's, I mean, whether it's a critical or financial disappointment, I think it might have ramifications in terms of the direction in which they want to. Because if the film is good, people might, the people at Lucasfilm might go, do you know, we don't have to make a film that's necessarily focused on the main storyline of Star Wars. We can have like side stories. It doesn't have to be about the Skywalker family.
Totally.
It doesn't have to be about the Force, which is always at the centre of things. Even in Rogue One, you had a Force-sensitive character. I mean, I'm going to assume that the Force doesn't make an appearance.
This might be the first Star Wars film to not feature a lightsaber at all.
Yeah. And
or C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah.
They were the only constant things.
And I've always felt that if you're going to expand the Star Wars universe, that's the direction you need to take. You need to tell the smaller stories, the ones which aren't part of that mainstream. And in the same way that so many sort of universes, like
there used to be books to do that.
Yeah.
And now that Disney have taken over, they want to basically turn all those books into potential films.
Yeah. So if this film doesn't,
it'll be like the Marvel universe.
Well, yeah,
it'll be this ever-growing web of films, all interlinking, and there may even be reboots and remakes as well.
But if the film, John, doesn't do that well, they might just suddenly be less cautious and start thinking, right, let's make sure we keep certain things, retain certain things, rather than. But if the film's really good, who knows where we'll be 5 years down the line? We might have something really radical. I'd love to see a much darker Star Wars film, and I don't necessarily want to use again Star Trek Discovery, a film that's got loads of swearing and violence, but just tonally a shift from what we've seen, and maybe a part of the Star Wars universe we haven't. There's so much we obviously as Star Wars fans that to be explored that we don't get. We only see glimpses of in the mainstream film. So I want the film to do well. I think there's a lot riding on Alden. What's his name?
Alden Ehrenreich.
Alden Ehrenreich. I will remember his name at some point. It was an ambitious project. I hope the film does well. But like you, John, I just wasn't sold on it.
Me too.
I'm not punching the air with an excitement around it.
No, I mean, bring on May.
Yeah.
We'll see how we feel. I'm obviously going to be going and seeing it.
Of course,
opening day, without a doubt. But
and
I
maybe
don't feel there's a lot riding on this for me. It just feels like it is. I treat it like I say, like a spin-off. A bit like I do the Ewok films. They're there. I don't acknowledge them. I went to see Rogue One with sceptical eyes, and I sat down and started watching the film, and I just loved it. Came out. Hands up, it's probably the best Star Wars film after Empire, in my opinion.
Oh, we talked about this in the commentary. And I wasn't sure where to put it, but I felt really good about it, and I just hope, look, at some point we've been so blessed the last few years that it's inevitable you're going to have something that maybe doesn't, quite tick the boxes. I hope it's not this movie, but what I hope you don't get is a reaction from the money people at Disney or Lucasfilm to suddenly, right, okay, we're suddenly going to do something that's a lot more predictable and mainstream and less Rogue One was a kind of a venture in a different direction.
After this, they've got that Obi-Wan film.
Yeah, and I see if this film's a disaster, like they haven't gone to production yet of Obi-Wan, have they? Do you think they'll suddenly go, wait, stop?
I'm not sure, really. I'm imagining they're in the early stages of production.
I may hold
script writing and stuff.
We'll see. I mean, it'd be so interesting. I can't wait till May
because obviously
to watch the film.
The Last Jedi is starting up again. I mean, sorry, not the Last Jedi. The Last Jedi sequel.
Yeah.
The final film of the new trilogy.
Yeah.
It is probably entering production
very
soon. So I don't really know, what's going to happen. Someone's pinging me messages. Sorry.
It's Alden Ehrenreich, whatever his name is.
He's furious that we're mispronouncing his name. Okay, guys. Final bit of news then before we wrap the show up. Big revelation this week. Game of Thrones creators to write and produce a new series of Star Wars films. David Benioff and D.B. Weiss take charge of the films, separate from the pre-existing franchise and Rian Johnson's previously announced trilogy. So, 3 new movies coming from Lucasfilm, written by these guys, on top of the 3 that they've already said that Rian Johnson are doing, on top of the Obi-Wan film, on top of the final Last Jedi sequel, making a total of 8 movies. And then also Bob Iger announces that there are 19 Star Wars films in the pipeline. So there's an additional 11 we don't know about. Where the fuck is this going? And first of all, what's your thoughts about the Game of Thrones revelation?
Well, firstly, I'm a massive Game of Thrones fan. I love the TV show, and I've got a lot of respect for these guys, D.B. Weiss and David Benioff, for bringing George R.R. Martin's kind of vision to the screen. A very difficult job, and it's great. And I could pontificate for ages about how much I love Game of Thrones. But when I first heard about this, I mean, initially I was, my fist was in the air, I was super excited. But then 2 things very quickly dawned on me, which made me a little bit sceptical, which I feel terrible this, in this podcast that I seem to be sort of the harbinger of like negativity, but, and for that I apologise. But the 2 things that hit me, and you've touched on that already, is, having read the article, is, bloody hell, this is oversaturation, isn't it? It's crazy. But if you think about it, it's not really a surprise, John, because at the end of the day, it's a business. Star Wars is doing really well. I can imagine, the sort of the money people, wherever they are at Disney or Lucasfilm, decided, look, let's just milk this cow for all we can get, and this is the direction that they've done. It's not the first time, it's been done with Star Trek. It's being done with Marvel. I'm intrigued to see whether, like Marvel, they choose to sort of world build and you have to kind of watch every single thing that comes out because they're working towards something, or possibly do something completely different and you have very kind of separate sort of spin-off. So you might have something that's aimed at a different audience, maybe an adult audience or a kids audience, or more kind of light-hearted, or something that's more kind of existential. Which, considering you've got these 2 guys and they've worked in Game of Thrones, anyone who's watched Game of Thrones will know about, it's not just the sex and the violence, but it's also the the politics and sort of the analysis of the human condition that makes Game of Thrones so popular.
Disney tend to stay away from adult stuff, though. There aren't I can't really think of many kind of Disney products which are aimed at an adult market that have strong language.
Well, this is true.
Sex and stuff.
But at the same time, people are always looking to evolve. I mean, 10 years ago, if you'd heard about, or 15 years ago when Marvel decided we're going to make loads of movies as part of a shared universe, people have thought you're fucking crazy. And now, like, every other film wants to do it. Yeah, everyone's trying to do it, whether it's Warner Brothers or Universal. So maybe the next stage is let's create, especially with like stream. I mean, although it says they're making 3 films, we don't know if these are going to have cinematic releases or we're going to see them on
That's true. That's a good point.
On Netflix or now they've. Yeah.
Well, Disney are trying to bring out their own streaming platform to rival Netflix. Maybe they're being made for that.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then suddenly you could have what you get on sort of Netflix and what you've seen going back to Star Trek Discovery of more kind of adult orientated productions. Yeah. But so I'm kind of digressing slightly. So when my kind of first doubt, my first doubt was, this is great. It's oversaturation, but however it's oversaturation, but I think that's inevitable. I think if they are serious about doing so many different projects, it's inevitable that there's going to be some crap. But also, I think there might be some really good stuff, and I think this is a good time to be a Star Wars fan. If you're willing to accept there's going to be some stuff that's going to miss the mark, I also think hopefully there'll be some really sort of like interesting stuff. I mean, one of the great things about, I think, a lot of the not just the Star Wars movies that have been made in the last few years, but even the Marvel films or other genres, is you can make something that's commercial, that's got a large budget, but still is challenging and it's thought-provoking, and at times it can be surreal and subversive and kind of open your mind. It doesn't have to be dead centre in the middle of like what's popular. It doesn't have to appeal to the lowest common denominator. So I'd like to be optimistic actually, and say there'll be some good stuff. That said, one kind of caution I want to make is these guys, if you actually look at their CV, and I've kind of looked at what they've done in the past, they're very good at adapting. Particularly David Benioff, they're very good at adapting other people's material. Benioff was he adapted The Kite Runner, which is a fantastic book and a great film for the big screen. And obviously he's done a great job in Game of Thrones. But this is also the same guy that worked on the movie Troy and X-Men's Wolverine, X-Men's Origins Wolverine. So
yeah,
I'm not sure like how much if they've been tasked with creating something from the ground up, I'm not sure what the quality will be like. If I do wonder if they're going to bring in another writer or again director, if they bring in a certain type of director, whether that will influence them. But having initially been like, oh, this is such great news, I'm like, yeah, but these guys, they're not as great as everyone thinks if you look at what they've done in the past.
They are not without their faults.
Yeah, and maybe by the time this production comes out, even the Star Wars fans might be a little bit sick, but who knows until we go through that journey.
We've got years to wait. I mean, you know how long films take to get off the ground.
Exactly.
It's a backlog now.
It can't be any worse.
Big
than
monorail of Star Wars films.
But we've had crap Star Wars stuff before. There's been the Ewoks films. There's a famous Christmas special, holiday special, and
I hope Lumpy and Mara will be making an appearance in the Han Solo film. I feel very cheated if they're not.
Oh god!
And Scratchy, Chewbacca's dad.
Scratchy,
who watches pornography, human pornography.
Oh dear,
with a VR helmet.
Yeah. It's an interesting time, isn't it, with all these announcements to be a Star Wars fan. But I think it's inevitable that there's going to be a point where even the Star Wars fans are like, right, enough is enough. But hopefully that's not a while off yet. But it's interesting. I want to be excited, but I am excited, but I'm a little bit scared because like anything in life, too much of a good thing can be bad for you. So
definitely. We'll get alcohol, for God's sake.
Indeed.
Everybody loves a nice can of beer, but you have 7 of them.
Yeah. Everyone loves chocolate cake. I like chocolate cake, but too much is not good for you. So it's the same as Star Wars. So yeah. There was one thing I wanted to quickly say, if that's all right.
Go for it.
So, I wanted to recommend something for you guys to watch, if you haven't done so already. So, I saw a fantastic documentary just the other night, in fact, about Drew Struzan, who was the guy that did the poster art for the Star Wars films.
He did the special editions.
A special edition.
He didn't do the originals, but
that's correct,
he's a legendary.
He's a legendary poster artist.
If you've seen any films from the 80s, like Indiana Jones, think Spielberg, think poster, chances are he painted
It's crazy. When I was watching this documentary on TV, I was like, oh my god, he did this poster and that poster. Yeah. He's prolific, isn't he?
He did the famous Thing poster with the guy standing in the coat with the light coming out his face. He did the Indiana Jones posters for all 3.
Yeah.
He did, like I said, the special edition versions of the trilogy. He did the prequel posters, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
All 3.
He did, yeah.
And Hook.
And Blade Runner as well.
Blade Runner, direct Final Cut version of Blade Runner, I think.
I think his most recent stuff has been Hellboy. Although I don't think it actually, I think it was kept for the special editions.
Well, they kind of go to him. If a film has got like a great cult status, he's willing to paint a poster for it. He did E.T.
He did indeed.
Yeah, he's just a legend. He's done our album covers as well. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath by Black Sabbath.
Alice Cooper.
Welcome to My Mind, I think it's called, or something like that. The one where he's got a top hat on the front. It's the one where he's painted. It looks gorgeous. But he's one of the most talented artists in...
Fantastic. So I think the documentary, I mean, I watched it here in the UK on Sky Atlantic, but I'm sure if you're outside of the UK, you could probably find it. The documentary is called Drew, the man behind the poster.
Yeah.
So if you,
it's so good. I saw this. You text me saying this is
Yeah.
on, and I'm like, I think I've seen this before, but I had seen it before. Yeah, great documentary, fascinating man.
I mean, he's
one
iconic,
of those people
yeah.
that's he is like the conduit between the audience and the film. His posters are legendary, almost as legendary as the film itself.
Well, it's great. I mean,
what he does is he basically sees the movie and then he summarizes that in a sheet of paper and paints it in such a way where he either makes it incredibly alluring or detestable, and he has a knack of just making these epic, wonderful posters. He even makes the prequels look good.
Yeah, I mean, he's so fascinating because if anyone that kind of likes sort of life drawing and that sort of thing, he can make things seem. You know, you can take a photograph of an actor or an actress who and they're posing, but by drawing or doing sort of fine art, he makes things hyper-real. He makes something more more real than the reality. It's fascinating. But look.
I used
just
to
go
have
and
a
watch
hook
it.
poster on my bedroom wall, and Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman's eyes used to follow me around the room. And I always found that really amazing, that a painting can appear to be looking at you from wherever you stand in the room. I always thought that was fantastic, really cool.
I can't remember in the documentary who says it, but somebody says that he is just as important to the Star Wars phenomenon as John Williams is. You know, I mean, he has created iconic pieces of art in the same way that John Williams has created iconic pieces.
His arrangements for things are a huge inspiration on how we do posters now. Everything these days is done through Photoshop, obviously, and you're taking photos of people like Daisy Ridley and you're rearranging them or whatever. The art of painting them has been lost. But with him, you see his work and you just kind of wish that we were still doing that. And look at the latest stuff. The Han Solo film. They've released 4 character posters, and they're all beautifully, they appear to be painted. Now, obviously, they've been photoshopped, I reckon. They've probably been, is that a Photoshop kind of effect that they've repainted over the photos. However, it does bring back nostalgic memories for me of those.
He's influenced a generation of people, hasn't he? And what's really interesting is I saw a poster for the Thor Ragnarok, which is completely just a rip-off of Struzan and Stranger Things. If anyone, when Stranger Things,
if it's 80s themed, they will always try and make like a Struzan poster because he defined what a movie poster should be in the 1980s. Didn't he do Gremlins as well?
He may well have done.
Gremlins, the famous poster of the box with the Gremlin gizmo coming out of the shoebox.
It seems to me he made posters for pretty much every good movie you and I watched growing up, and the bad ones as well,
was involved in, basically,
including Master of the Universe.
Oh he did do Master of the Universe.
So the poster to Master of the Universe looks better in its entirety than the film itself. And it's really interesting. Again, it's sort of an insight to how movies were marketed back in the day, before we had sort of the internet and social media and what have you. And people would go and watch the film. I think sometimes just based on the strength of these posters. Which is fascinating.
Well, when I was a kid, going in Ritz, this is what it was called, Ritz Video. Do you remember Ritz Video before Blockbuster came along?
Oh God, yeah.
With a bright yellow and it was a red logo. So Ritz Video would go in there and you'd pick a movie based entirely on its video cover.
Yeah.
Don't judge a book by its cover, but if you're a child, you're going to judge a video by its cover, right?
I can totally relate to that. That's exactly what I did.
And that's why films like Stephen King's It, to a 5-year-old boy, look so alluring because you're kind of that looks scary.
And there was probably so much trash that I watched as a consequence, but there's probably a few good movies as well, or good B movies that I watched as well, just on the strength of it. I
remember seeing Struzan do a Return to Oz poster. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I think it did. But one of the reasons why that box got pulled down off a shelf because
he did the Back to the Future poster.
He did do the 3 Back to the Future posters, which are all a parody of themselves.
Yeah.
It's the first one's Marty looking at his watch, second one is Marty in dark, third one is Marty, Doc and Clara. It's so well done.
Yeah,
they're
fantastic,
great.
fantastic.
Every little detail's in there, the way they're dressed, and they're fantastic. He is I don't know. Cinema would not be the same without him in the universe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree.
The kind of the lobby of the cinema would not feel the same without his.
I think in film or music or art or various sort of creative outlets, there you have the people who are kind of at the front and centre of the mainstream, and you have people like Struzan, who's probably influenced people, and people have been exposed to stuff that he's created, and they don't know without knowing it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with...
If you've got any Star Wars posters in your home or any film poster in your home, go and have a look now and see if his signature's on there.
Yeah.
Because
probably got worth a bit of money, I imagine, is it? Probably.
I'm not sure if a print is, but an original would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie The Mist? The one where everybody's trapped in a supermarket and there's like a weird smoke outside.
Is this a Thomas Jane movie?
Based on a Stephen King story.
Yeah.
So that's based on him.
Yeah.
He is supposed to be that main character.
Yeah,
it's like a parody of him.
That's how cool he is. This guy is how cool is it to have someone create a character for a film
based on your life? Yeah.
You know you've made it when someone makes a fictionalised version of you. That's the fucking dream, surely.
Yeah. The Raj film.
That would be great. I would love a fictionalised version of myself. I'm not quite sure what I would be doing, but I would love to see a fictionalised version of myself.
Might be able to get you into the next Star Wars film, the Obi-Wan film, perhaps.
Oh, God. We'll see how Solo works first.
Yeah.
I'm going to be super positive, actually. It feels like catharsis, so I believe Solo's going to be good, and even if it isn't, it doesn't matter, because this is a golden time for a Star Wars.
There has to be some bad Star Wars.
There has to be some bad stuff, yeah. And there'll probably be some good things within the context. To be honest, the bar's been raised so high, hasn't it, the last 3 movies? It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Even if something's mediocre,
Rogue One was a surprise kind of
Yeah,
shock out of all of them. Really, it was such in a league of its own.
I want Solo to do well because I like to think I'm quite a subversive person. So what I want is for things to become for things to perpetuate to the point where you get some really alternative, really subversive Star Wars films.
Yeah,
and it's not quite the same. But for Ragnarok, that was a comedy. That was a science fiction or a superhero film, rather than a superhero film that was a comedy. And
True.
And the point
is very deliberately trying to grab a hold of that 80s nostalgia as well, wasn't it?
And it's a kind of film that I don't think 10 years ago the people were making when it came to superheroes.
Yeah.
And I kind of what I want is some sort of evolution in the Star Wars universe where we started to see sort of slightly different Star Wars movies, whether it's the tone or the story itself, or and the more these films are successful, the more the creative people are going to try. The money people are going to trust the creative people and say, "Look, you want to do this? It's a bit left field. Well, fuck it. You've made loads of money for us already."
So are you telling our listeners, whatever happens, we must go out and make this film a success?
Yeah, definitely. Otherwise, they'll just play it safe and make very again films aimed at mainstream lowest common denominator that doesn't.
It's films for morons basically.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We don't want that.
We don't want that. No, not at all.
All right. Okay. I've been John Galantini.
And I've been Raj Rajendran.
And thank you so much for listening to the show this week. And may the Force be with you.